Guys, so we're gonna start with the basics. We're gonna start by creating a local script in starter character scripts. This is where we're gonna gather our input. And then we're gonna have another server, not a server, local script for our not like a receiver, but kind of like we're gonna go from the client, we're gonna get the input, we're gonna go to server, and then we're gonna replicate to the client again. So we'll call it the replicator. You got input replicator, and here we're gonna do a server script that will just be the handler, let's see, for now. So here, this script, it's gonna run within the starter character. So if I click play, this script has access to the player itself. We got our input and replicator. On server, it will not show on the client. The whole point of having a server is to have the secure part of coding. So let's say you have data, damage, or anything that relates to something that's vulnerable, it would be handled on the server. But anything that's visual, sound effects, or animations, we do it on the client. Why? Because first of all, the client is faster than the server. The client can handle more, depends on your computer performance. So anything that relates to like velocity, animations, sound effects, VFX, we do it on the client for a certain reason, just to not overflood the server because the server is not big. All right, okay, so let's start with the input. Here, I'm gonna go a bit general because this is my first video. So local is mainly for variables and for instances, we can say. So like let's say Roblox has predefined services. For example, you have the input service that is basically whatever you type on your computer, it allows you to get that, right? So we have, give me one second, user input service. That's an example of service. We can also get the replicate storage, replicate storage. That's also a service because it has features. Also, for the people that don't know what it is, but we can autofill our stuff by clicking tab. So let's say I write local workspace. Wait, actually, that's not a good example. I'll just like replicate storage again. So I'll just call it rs game. And I press dot get service. I press tab. And then I write replicate storage since it already exists in the service. I just press tab again. There we go. Okay. Forgot what I wanted to do. Oh, okay. So here, if we want the input, we don't need to get the character. We can just directly use the input service since it's a local feature. You cannot get someone's input on server. The client is meant to get what the client does. So interactions, information on server, you can't access a player's information on server. That relates to things that are physical like interactions and whatnot. So you need to provide that to the server from the client. That makes sense. So example, locally we can get the character, we can get the local player, which is using a service called players. Actually, we'll call players first. Get service players, and then in the players we can get our local player, which is players.local player. And if you know the difference between character and player, the player is basically your exterior, and character is your actual rig. So how you dress it up and whatnot, that's your character. The player is just when you enter a server, it's your there's no visual aspect to a player. It's just like their center of information. So we have our character. I'll show you a visual example shortly. Okay, So if I click play, um, this here in our workspace is whatever that's living, that's real. That is considered our character. So this here is our character. It's something that's visual that you can see. Now, if I want to have information that's more, let's say, that's not known to the public or that's not useful for a character, you would have it in the players. So I got my player that exists. I have like the GUIs, the scripts of the player. And the characters in the workspace. That's a quick example. The reason why I did character.added is basically it's going to prevent issues from getting the character before it exists. If this script runs before the player is added, well, actually, it's not going to happen because the local script is within the character, so this ends up being useless. But if you add a script into player scripts and it tries to get the character, it might fail sometimes because it's not added yet. The player joins and then the character joins. If you try and get the character before it exists, it's going to throw a mistake. That makes sense. So we do player.character added.wait. So it's going to wait until it's added before trying to call it. Okay, that's going to be part one. We'll do a